Hello, my name is Dr. Brandy Stark, and I will be your professor for this semester. You do not have to adjust your screens. The hair is actually blue. Anyway, I just wanted to do a brief introduction of myself and then give us some notes to start with for the introduction. Anyway, when you address me, I do prefer to be called Dr. Stark. Mrs. Stark is my mother. I've had people who've typed Mr. Stark, and my father died in 2012, so obviously I'm not him. But I actually do have 6 degrees. So my undergraduates are in history and classics. I have graduate degrees in religious studies, humanities, and liberal studies literature. And I do have a doctorate in leadership, believe it or not. So I have been in the classroom probably longer than most of you have been alive, even though I look this fantastic. But I've also been teaching probably longer than most of you have been alive, but that's okay. I age well. So essentially, when I am not teaching, I actually spend a bit of time with my pets, and I have one here. This is my juvenile bearded dragon. Her name is Pumpkin. I've kept her up past her bedtime, so she's a little sleepy right now, but she's a very, very good companion. I have a grumble of pugs, which means I have a group of pugs, and I do have one puggle who is absolutely obnoxious. I also have pocket pets, so I have pet rats, gerbils, and hamsters. And then I do have a very, very cranky tortoise named Artemisia, who is like the one pet I've ever had who hates me and ironically will probably outlive me. So it's fine. So when I am not dealing with all of this, I'm also a Florida artist. I do hand-wrapped wire metal sculpture. I do a ton of mermaids because Florida, right? But I also do photography and some polymer clay. I've actually shown locally, statewide, nationally, and internationally. I've been juried in and I've won awards. And actually, I plan to do a video in my art studio so I can kind of show you some of that. Look for that with Hinduism because I have this great photograph of Shiva Nataraja or the Dancing Shiva that we'll take a look at. In addition to all of this, I'm also a student of the supernatural. I've got a couple of books out. I've actually studied the role of the supernatural as part of culture. Basically, I cannot say ghosts exist or werewolves exist or vampires or revenants or anything else I've written or studied, but I can say that they reflect cultural ideologies. So I actually have 2 theses that I wrote. One is the Danse Macabre des Femmes as a form of proto-feminism. So I studied the Danse Macabre, if you will, or macabre. And then I actually proposed that it was promoting the role of women, which is kind of interesting. I have written papers on the evolution of the werewolf from Greek tragedies to movies. I've written papers and presented on Homer and how he revolutionized the afterlife with the canonization of Hades. I do history tours and I do talk about, some of the spooky things. So it's quite a bit of fun. I really enjoy myself. I am not an occultist, so please don't panic. Anyway, I think that's about it for me. But I did want to give you a few notes for the introduction. Now, I have written these out. I'm just going to kind of glance at them to make sure that I'm following everything. But these are just a few terms to kind of get you started. So when we study religion, we're looking at something that is really, really in-depth. And really, it's just fantastic. But there are a few terms that can be a little bit confusing. So the first thing that I do want to talk about, remember that World Religions is a survey course. So basically you are being given a little piece of the pie. You can study religion as a class. I mean, I've taught exclusively Abrahamic, Old Testament, New Testament, women in religion, Eastern religions. I mean, you can study each and every one as their own subset. But in addition to that, you can get degrees in it. But if you're a practitioner, you are studying this for a life or a lifetime or multiple lifetimes, depending on where you're coming from. So The survey course is academic, it is objective, so please be aware of that. It is a world religions course. Note the S at the end of world religions. I've actually had students say, I was so surprised by your class because we studied more than just Christianity. I'm like, well, yes, world religions. So we're going to take a look at Hinduism and Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, and we will do the Abrahamic. So we will have Judaism and Christianity and Islam, and we're going to toss in a couple extra religions just for the fun of it. Actually, not for the fun of it, but because it's mandated. So I really think you'll enjoy this. Now, one thing I do need to tell you is that when we talk about religion, we are talking about what is known as a mythology. Nobody's allowed to panic over that. Mythology simply means a continuous explanatory narrative. All religions have a continuous explanatory narrative. In the beginning, there was God, and God said, let there be. Explains where was God and how did we get here. They basically explain causal reality. Why do bad things happen to good people? Well, bad things happen to good people because, right? You sinned because of karma, because God said so. Things like this you kind of need to think about and keep in the back of your mind, all right? So if you ever hear the term mythology, it is not a bad word. Now, there is a difference between a living religion and a dead religion. So for the most part, for example, the Nordic religion is not practiced by, the Norn, if you will, by people of that culture from that time period. It is more or less a dead religion. They are not adding to it. It is not transforming culturally. Now, if you are a Wiccan and you happen to be of the Norse mythological background, that's different. But for the most part, the Nordic religions, they're solid. They're done. The Greek religions are solid and done. The Roman religions, ancient Egyptian. So all of those are not having a lot of material added to them, basically no material. And so they are kind of considered dead religions. They're not reflecting the cultures of today. All right. Living religions are religions that are continuously evolving. So Christianity, still evolving, right? That big old Protestant Reformation changed a lot of stuff. So kind of keep all of this in mind, all right? Religions are also difficult because we get to talk about things like, gee, what's God? What is my relationship to God? What does God want? What do I want? All right? So there's a few things that I want to discuss right here. The first thing is, how do we define God? How do we define us? Are you ready for this? There are 3 terms that I like to use. The first term is conditioned reality. All right? Conditioned reality means the reality that is trapped to rules and regulations. In other words, we are stuck in space and time. So we actually have to eat. We have to potty. We have to breathe. We have to have space. I cannot turn the clock back 10 years. I cannot speed the clock up 10 years. So I am part of conditioned reality. In addition to that, conditioned reality consists of duality, black, white, male, female, day, night, yin, yang, right? But in addition to that, it can contain multiplicities. Multiplicities are shades of gray, black, 50 shades of gray, white, or vice versa. Up, middle, down. Dawn, day, dusk, night. If you happen to be, actually not all religions just say there's male and female. Some cultures actually say that there are masculine feminines and there's feminine masculines. There was a tribe in Florida, the Aya, that actually had a third gender. So the third gender actually worked in between the male, the hunter, and the shaman and the women. So what would happen is the women were responsible for growing a certain type of sacred, it was like a coffee herb, essentially kind of a coffee relative, that the hunters drank before they went out to hunt. It made them sweat and therefore purified them for the hunt, all right? So how did you get the beings from women to men when there's kind of a taboo, this area where these two energies can't cross? Well, this is where that third gender came in. So the women would grow the beans, but the feminine masculine would gather the beans, prepare them, give them to the shaman for the final stages of preparation, and then the hunters would drink, right? So we are part of multiplicity. In addition to that, we are trapped in a world of change. So I am not the same person today as I was yesterday, as I was 10 years ago, as I was 20 years ago. And obviously, since I'm that young, that's as far as we'll go. I will not be the same in 10 years. You will not be the same in 10 years, I guarantee it. So we are constantly changing, and we are trapped in the world of change. And of course, one thing that is tremendously scary is change, right? Religion tries to talk to us about how to deal with change. All right. So on top of that, we've got conditioned reality. That's us. Ideas, emotions, plants, animals, people, the world, the universe. What is the opposite of that? That has to be the godly. So that's the unconditioned world. The unconditioned world is the exact opposite. It is singularity. It is unchanging. It is outside of space and time. That's how God gets to be omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Okay? So, hey, we just define God. Perfect. The problem is that we of the conditioned world cannot communicate with the unconditioned, right? Two parallel worlds. There has to be a level of communication. Otherwise, this class would be, well, we don't know, test tomorrow. So there is a level in between, and that is called the liminal. That's a great word. Everybody should use it. Drop it over dinner. Liminal means the in-between world. Okay? In between us and God, there's something. And that something usually consists of entities, beings, things that are within space and time, but not confined in the same way to space and time. Messiahs, prophets, scripture, ghosts, angels, demons. They all have a point of origin. They're not outside of space and time. Right? Even the devil has a birthday, if you will. God existed, and then later on, there's the devil. So they're all kind of liminal. They're all in between. Angels come to humankind. Angel came to Mary and said, you're going to be pregnant. Right? So we've got conditioned, liminal, unconditioned. And those are the things that we are actually studying. All right. So next up, let me flip my page. I put lots and lots of notes, and I did type this up, and I will add it for you. Are we involved in communication between this world and the next? And the answer is pretty much yes. So one thing that we do is we pray, all right? Religions deal with prayer, communicating with God. So we say stuff like, hey, can you please help me? Hey, thanks so much. Yes, I know you're there. The thing with prayer is that we don't get necessarily an answer. We can say, please, dear God, let me pass this exam. But we will not know if we pass the exam until it comes back to us. So prayer is kind of a request or an acknowledgement. Definitely communication to the other side. Coming this way is meditation. So silencing yourself to hear the supernatural around or within you. In Hinduism, it's called the chit, C-H-I-T, the little voice of God, if you will, telling you what is right and what is wrong. We have that voice, whereas animals do not. So even though I love my little pumpkin, if she saw a ginormous tarantula out there and she wanted to eat it, I could not tell her, hey, no, that's wrong, don't do it. She would follow her instinct and eat it, right? And it would probably kill her, so that'd be bad. No tarantulas. So we have reason. We know that if we hit a parked car, that we should leave a note. And yes, you should leave a note. I have had my car hit a few times, and guess what? Nobody left a note. Okay. Religion also answers, who is God? So Judaism God, who are you, right? Moses asking, and God says, my name is I am, and that's short for I am who it is that I say I am. This means you do not define God. God exists outside of you, all right? Then we have Hinduism. In the beginning, there was Brahma, the unknowable, unnamed, unfathomable deity, the deity that spawns all other deities and from itself creates reality. Therefore, what is God? Well, by the time we get into Hinduism, you start getting things like the Vedas and the Upanishads, and it is God is the world. God is these things. God is you. God is me. We're all part of the divine, and we should treat each other as if we're divine. In fact, namaste, right? The soul in me acknowledges the soul, the divine in you. All right. Then we get things like Buddhism, which says, there's no creator God. The world always was and always will be. I'll let y'all wrap your mind around that. Don't worry, there's a chapter on Buddhism. But there's something called the Buddha force. There is this potential of omniscience that we can achieve and understand. And this means that we will not kind of toss through existence. We will have control over how we manifest. And that's pretty groovy. All right. Okay. Let's see. Another thing. What does God want? What are the rules? What's ethical? What's moral? What should I do? What should I not do? What happens if I kill somebody? Well, look at Deuteronomy and Leviticus. Did you mean to? Then it's bad. Was it an accident? Was it a freeman? Was it a slave? Was it a foreigner? Was it, and so there's categories. And if this, then that. Oh yeah, causal reality. Remember that from before. Okay. This also is where religions get controversial. So just be aware of that. It can be a little bit harder because one culture's morals and beliefs may not mirror another's. Okay. Religion answers the question, why do bad things happen to good people? The Book of Job. If you don't read anything else, read the Book of Job. Brilliant. I love it. It's folkloric. It is part of the Tanakh or the Jewish Bible. It's part of the Old Testament. It shows up quite a bit. Well, here's the Book of Job. Job's an awesome guy. And one day, the devil shows up and says, you know why Job is so awesome? Why he worships you so much? It's because you give him everything. And God says, oh, okay. And technically it's Lucifer, but we're not splitting hairs yet. And God says, take away his wealth. Take away his family. Take away his kids. Take away his health. Right? Job did nothing. So why did bad things happen? Well, at the end, Job confronts a giant talking windstorm, which is God, and he says, why? And God said, you little speck of dust, where were you when I created the universe, and who are you to question me now? Because. So why do bad things happen to good people? Test of faith? Because. In the East, however, bad things happen to good people because of karma. So you might be a real jerk in this lifetime, but good things keep freaking happening for you, right? I hate when that happens. Why? Well, because in the last lifetime, what if you were a monk and you earned all this good karma? It's going to take fruition in this lifetime. But here's the problem. You're not making new good karma. That old good karma is going to run out, and then it's going to suck for you. Not only that, but provided when you die, you're going to carry that karma into the next lifetime, which means wherever you are, you earned that place. Okay. Religion answers questions about creation. Where did the universe come from? How did I get here? It's called cosmology or cosmogony, the story of creation. And there's some really cool ones. One of my favorite is African, and it's about the god Abumba. And Abumba lives on Earth, and he decides that he's going to create the cosmos, and he basically strains and retches. So it's kind of the male version of labor, but instead of birth, he vomits. And from his vomit, he makes the sun, the moon, and the stars, right? He vomits up the animals, and then he vomits up a shaman. And I'm like, well, dang, okay, interesting. Sorry, that's a problem. And there's not much I can do about them. So for these videos, you might as well get used to the bug noise. Patroclus. I'm too far into this to start again. All right. So the other types of cosmologies or cosmogonies are at least 7. They include trees, oceans, speaking, birthing, making the world from godly defecate, right? Feces. It's kind of an interesting thing. All right, what's the opposite of creation? Destruction. So what happens at the end? It's a little thing called the apocalypse, also known as the study of eschatology or the end of time. And if you actually parallel that, what happens before we're born? Why do I exist? What happens when I die, right? Where do I go after all this? How do I get there? Life, death, results. Okay. In addition, I guess that's about all of my notes. Oh, no, I've got a couple more. Religion also gives us an idea of rites and rituals. A rite is something that happens once in a lifetime. It's a milestone. So you're born, you're a kid, you get adulthood, you get married, you have kids, you retire, and you die. Those are the big 7. That's it. They happen to you, they're personal. That's a rite. So our initiation into adulthood now at 21, right? People sometimes go out bar crawls. I did not. I remember my 21st birthday, thank you. Quinceaneras, bar mitzvahs, that type of thing. A ritual is something that the community participates in. So you can go to multiple weddings. You can go to multiple funerals. You can go to multiple worships, if you will. You can have multiple holidays. For example, they tend to be calendrical and cyclical. So we know every year, December 25th is going to be Christmas in the West. Okay? All right. Well, I do rather suspect that's probably enough for one video. At 22 minutes, and I don't want to bore you too much. But just remember that we're taking a look at multiple religions. Please, please, please read the syllabus. Read the syllabus. Before you send an email to me, read the syllabus. Look at the syllabus. The syllabus. Syllabus? Syllabus. Okay. Oh, pet peeves, just in case you need them. Make sure you follow the instructions. Whatever the instructions say, follow the instructions. That does mean, for example, with discussion forums, you need to have one post that you create, and you need to reply to 2 different students after that. You cannot just say, hey, I agree. Nope. Or what I always love, I call these grading discussion posts. Wow, you wrote that really well. It's my job. So no, you need to add to the conversation. All right. When you're writing papers for me, the one thing that makes my head explode is the use of the pronoun you. Here's the problem. Who's reading your paper? Me. And if you're telling me my opinion or my experiences, it's not going to go well. If you are quoting somebody and they say you may use that, but you have to put it in quotes and put a citation at the end. You do need a works cited. Do not use encyclopedias because my eyes will melt, and that will definitely impact your grade. You need to use college level resources. And I believe there's even a folder in here that you can take a look at. You do need to have in-text citations. So here's how this works. You have a work cited at the end, and because it's a works cited, it means that you cited the work by tying it to the body of the essay by putting in something like a parenthetical citation. So for this, if it's a direct quote, you must have one. Must. And if it's not common knowledge, so if it's the sky is blue, you don't have to cite that. But if it's something like Levi-Bruhl said that, anthropologists believe that the world is, that the dreamscape is a form of world vision. That's not your idea. That's Levi-Bruhl's, and you need to cite that. Okay? Works cited, parenthetical citation. I think that's it. La, la, la. Yes. So I really hope this video helps you. I hope it was not too long. I will put in a transcription so that you can kind of read it. It might be a little more organized and it might not be in the same order as the video. But hey, life is, boring that way. So I'm going to let you go. Please start into the class. Make sure you know what you're doing. I'll catch you next video.